Welcome to Really American. I am Michael Hayne. Y'all remember Jenna Ellis, right? She was the MAGA Republican lawyer who got farted on by Giuliani during that horrific clown show of them contesting the election. Anyway, well, guess what, folks? She's flipped. She is singing like Sinatra at the Copacabana. Sorry for that old-timey reference.
Charges that former Trump campaign attorney Jenna Ellis were facing in Arizona are now being dropped, but it's part of a cooperation agreement. Ellis from Weld County is now cooperating with prosecutors there and is willing to testify in the case. She'd previously pleaded not guilty to fraud and conspiracy charges in the fake electors case in Arizona. She's already pleaded guilty in Georgia regarding false statements about the 2020 election and as a result has been barred from practicing law in Colorado for 3 years.
Does everything he touched just immediately turn to shit? Like, seriously, imagine sacrificing a promising legal profession just so you can suck up to Trump. How did that work out for you? How does that ever work out for anyone?
In Arizona, former Trump attorney Jenna Ellis is now cooperating with prosecutors in the state's fake electors case, according to that state's attorney general. Ellis was one of 18 Trump allies who pleaded not guilty back in May to fraud, forgery, and conspiracy charges. They're accused of taking part in a scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in Arizona. But with this cooperation agreement Ellis signed Monday, prosecutors say they are now dropping the charges against her. Joining us now for more is NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos. Danny, good morning. So Arizona's AG said in a statement Monday, this agreement represents a significant step forward in our case. Walk us through this agreement, what it could mean for the case.
This is a classic cooperation agreement, and Jenna Ellis fits the profile of the classic cooperator. Way back many months ago when she was first charged in the Georgia case, I would have told you the same thing because she is charged with one count in the Georgia case, for example, which she already pleaded guilty to. And in that case, she is a professional, kind of on the periphery of what all the other alleged bad conduct is. Same thing in the Arizona case. This is the ideal person for the government or prosecutors to go after and offer a cooperation agreement. And what we can glean from that agreement is that she offered them information that's valuable to them. She came in for what's called a proffer. They call it a free talk in Arizona. You bare your soul, you tell them everything, and basically the government, the prosecutors are shopping. If they like what they hear, they'll offer you a deal. And look at that deal. Charges are being dropped. Joe, I can't tell you how rare that is. Almost always in cooperation agreements, there's some element of taking responsibility so that when the witness takes the stand, they're not in that, they didn't get that sweet a deal. In other words, the charges aren't completely dropped. Normally, they pleaded guilty to the Haberdashery Act or crossing the street without a signal, something like that, so they can at least take on some culpability. It makes them look more credible.
The agreement says that Ellis spoke with the prosecution the day before the lead prosecutor came out and told everyone, hey, plea deals might be in the works. We're talking with folks. Could we see more of these people who are charged in this case potentially come forward now that Ellis has?
Cooperators operate under the same physics rules as dominoes. When you see one usually cooperate, the others get a sense of, it's like when you're on the internet and you're buying something, you say, act now, this offer is only going to be around for another 10 minutes. And they know, these other defendants know that as more cooperators are added, the government needs additional cooperators less. So there's always that element of time. Oh, look, that person is now cooperating. We ought to really think about it because that just means the government's case is getting stronger and stronger. And we know and can assume that if the government offered her a plea agreement, they like what she had to say. So that means it was so valuable to them, they offered her the best deal of all, which is dropping the charges. Again, incredibly rare.
Bottom line, where do things go from here for both the prosecution and those who are defending the suspects here?
Oh, I think the prosecution lets this hang out in the air for as long as they can. And I think they know there are good chances that other defendants are coming forward. And by the way, if you were a betting person, Jenna Ellis would have been the ideal person to come forward early because she's already done so in other cases. And like I said, she fits the classic profile. I'll be honest with you. I'm a lawyer. If I was charged in the way Jenna Ellis was, I'd probably be the very first one to roll in on a proffer agreement and cut a deal because professionals, lawyers like Jenna Ellis, have more to lose than, say, a hardened criminal who's looking at his third conviction. Those are the people who have the stomach to go to trial. People like me, forget it. I'd rather try the case than be the defendant.
Hardened criminals. So you basically mean anyone who's ever worked for Trump or has ever been in the same room with him, rather. Now, last year, Ellis was charged in Georgia after she appeared with Giuliani in that December 2020 hearing in which he farted on her, hosted by state Republican lawmakers at the Georgia Capitol, during which false allegations of election fraud were made. She pleaded guilty in October to one felony count of aiding and abetting false statements and writings. The cooperation agreement signed by Ellis in the Arizona case, in fact, requires her to provide truthful information to the Attorney General's office and testify honestly in proceedings in any state or federal court. Prosecutors can actually withdraw from the deal and refile charges should she not be honest and forthright. Wait a minute. Somebody connected to Trump being honest and forthright? Like, isn't that like kind of like asking Charlie Sheen to be sober? I don't know. How's that going to go? You know, and since we really need like the Cliff's Notes when it comes to like Trump and his criminal indictments and investigations and trials and all of that fuckery, I guess it might be difficult to keep up with all of it. So here's a little summary of the fake elector scheme in case you forgot.
It's when the former president and his allies got to work convincing loyalists in 7 states that they should back Republican electors in key battlegrounds won by the Democrat in the race, Joe Biden. The focus on Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Wisconsin, New Mexico, and Pennsylvania. Some of those so-called fake electors showed up at state capitals where the real electors were meeting. They even created phony certificates like the ones you see here. The goal, apparently, to send through this fake slate of electors to Congress, where the vice president presides over the official count. The thinking seemed to be that then VP Mike Pence could grant Mr. Trump the disputed electoral votes or send the issue back to the states, opening the door to keeping Mr. Trump in power. You probably know what happened next. Pence rejected the scheme, citing the Constitution.
President Donald J. Trump!
And Mr. Trump on the National Mall told his supporters the election was being stolen. It was not.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Remember, by that time, most of Mr. Trump's election challenges had been thrown out in court, and his own attorney general had declared no evidence of widespread fraud. Some defenders of the former...
And we thought we flushed the orange turd then. Well, I suppose you can see how significant this deal that was made with Jenna Ellis on part of the prosecution in Arizona actually is, because this now sets up the opportunity for them to have others come into the fold and ultimately get the final boss himself. Well, I am Michael Hayne. This is Really American. If you enjoy our content, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Talk to you later.